guys, how's it going? I'm working on some routine maintenance of one of my succulent projects today. This is a Sempervivum wreath that I put together. It's been about 10 months ago and it's done really well. I've been really thrilled with it, but it's looking pretty rough at this point. Like it has a lot of hard water damage on the leaves, or hard water spots, I should say. It's not like it won't hurt the plant unless they get completely coated with hard water, but it's just one of the things we deal with in our area. And they all need to be groomed because the lower levels of all of these plants, like all the lower leaves, tend to start to brown and dry, and they just need to be pulled off, which is something I could have been doing up until this point. Like I could just be a little bit more diligent about grooming, but I just haven't been this year. I do want to pick it up and show you that most all of them have rooted in really well. So like I can shake it and they're staying in place, except for the one I'm putting my thumb on right here. That's a little bit loose. Oh, and this one right here, apparently I can't shake it. But most of them rooted and have done really well. This one right here was giving me fits. Like it would not, like it's got healthy roots, but it would not root into the wreath form, and I don't know why. So what I ended up doing was just flipping the wreath to where this one was laying on top so that gravity wasn't against me, so it could just kind of rest there, and it did okay, but it needs a grooming really bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull them all out. Like this is a really good example. I'm going to pull them all out. There should be a bunch of these greening pins, which is how I get the Sempervivums to stay in if they're being a little bit stubborn. Especially in the beginning, these are helpful. You can get these in like packs of, I don't know, 50 or 100 or something like that for really cheap at the craft store or at your garden center. So I'll pull them all out like this, and then I'm just going to groom them all up. Like just pull all of these bad looking leaves off, all the babies I'm going to be pulling off. There are a ton of babies on this wreath. You can see them all. I mean, just all over the place. But I just want to do a general cleaning, get them all off the wreath form. Then I'm going to kind of assess how many I have left that look really nice. And I'll either fashion them back onto this wreath form, or I brought a couple of pots out and some cactus soil. So I've got that. These are a couple of really shallow containers that I thought that these would be very pretty in for the winter months, which may be the direction I take it. I'm not real sure. These are a couple of the pots I used in our Wizard of Oz fairy garden. These were the two top layers, so I like to reuse my stuff as much as possible. So I'm just going to move this stuff off, and then I'm just going to work on getting all of these Sempervivums off the wreath and groomed. So we're out in the greenhouse today. It's 41 degrees out, which means it's probably, I don't know, what does it feel like in here, Aaron? Like 50 something? Yeah. It's beautiful. Like I feel like we could work in this type of weather all year round, and I would love it. Oh geez, see, look at that. Look at all of those brown leaves. Gosh, I neglect my plants so much. This needed to be watered too, these poor plants. Dry as a bone. I think I've got them all. So here is my pile of cleaned up Sempervivums, and then here is the pile of stuff I need to toss away. So this is kind of like loose moss that I had tucked in between where there were little gaps, and then just all of those dried up leaves. There were a couple of Semps that kind of like, they just did not look good, that I got rid of, but for the most part, they all cleaned up pretty nicely. So I'm looking at this form, and I don't think I'm going to put these back into wreath form for a couple of reasons. One, I don't know that I have the patience today to do that, because that type of project does take quite a long time, and you can watch, we'll link the original video when I put this together down below, and that way you can kind of see how I build a wreath like that from, you know, nothing to finished product. And also, I want to bring these inside for the rest of the winter, somewhere where, you know, it's nice and warm, and they can maybe do a little bit of growing and have a little bit more room for root growth. I also don't want to have a wreath inside because they are a little bit of a pain to water. They're not a pain when they're outside because you can throw them on a gate or on the ground or whatever, and you can just hose them down whenever you need to, and they can just drain right where they are. But inside, I would have to hang it somewhere, and then when it needed to be watered, I'd have to go put it in a tub or a sink, water it, let it drain for a long time, and then wait for the back to dry before I hung it up so I didn't wreck any of my surfaces. So a wreath inside just really isn't as good of an idea, this type anyway, because this type's got burlap on the back. That's the only thing that would protect a surface, and I don't think it would do a very good job. So I'm going to get rid of all this stuff and bring those containers back up here, and then we'll just kind of fashion a new arrangement. I am going to go look for maybe a large rock or a piece of neat wood or something to put in the center so it gives it a little bit of interest. So both of these containers have a drain hole, so we're good there. I'll just put a clear saucer underneath them. So I'm gonna fill them both with soil and then go find something for the center. Okay, so I did gather up a few things. Here's the piece of driftwood right here I got for this larger container. And I think it's really pretty and adds some height and textural interest. And then in this one, I brought over 2 just rocks out of our driveway. And I'm not sure how I'll arrange them or anything, but I think it's a good start. I also did bring over a couple other plants just because there's not a whole lot of color going on in these Sempervivum, so I might add in maybe some lemon coral sedum. And then I did have some cranberry cocktail Sempervivums here in the greenhouse that I thought would add maybe a little bit of brightness, but I do want to keep it mostly this plant. So I did use 3 varieties in the wreath. There was Ruby Heart, Silver King, and Moss Rose. Kind of in hindsight, after I got the wreath done, I kind of looked at it and I'm like, that looks like a bunch of pine cones because all the Sempervivums were dark colored. And it kind of looked like the bottom of a bunch of pine cones. It was still very pretty, and I think all those varieties are really pretty, but when I do that again, I'll probably add in a little bit more color. So at this point, all I'm gonna do is just plant these all up. Most all of these have roots on them already, so I just need to nest them in, and yeah, we'll see what they look like in the end. They're done. I think they look absolutely gorgeous. I used almost all of the succulents. I have a handful of little tiny ones left that I set aside that I'm going to put in some potting soil here when I'm done. I did add a few other Sempervivums that I had on hand just for a little pop of color. I had these are called Plum Parfait. Cranberry Cocktail has a little bit of yellow in it. And then there was some, I think that's it. I think I had all the other ones in the wreath. So I'm really, really thrilled with how they just came out. They look like little xeriscape gardens. I ended up not using any lemon coral sedum, and I think that that's good because these will require the exact kind of care as each other. I'll also be watering these with a large syringe rather than a watering can. That way I can direct the water right toward the roots of the plants instead of like accidentally getting it running off into the sand, because like I said, it will create a big mess. So these will go in the sunniest spot I can find inside. If I don't think that they've got enough sun to keep the color nice, I will put them under a grow light in my plant room, most likely, but I think that they will winter really nicely inside, and I just like the before and after of these plants is crazy. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.